Hello,
He's Oliver,
she's Lucy,
and you're listening to Anyway Movies,
the podcast of film fanatics and movie maniacs.
the podcast of discussions, debates, and occasional distractions as we talk about all things cinema.
If you like what you hear, be sure to like our Facebook page and follow us on podcasting platforms.
Big shout out to my sister Molly for creating the logo and images for our podcast. Give her a follow on Instagram at _Molly_Joanne_.
Now that's all out of the way, dim the lights, turn the projector on, and let's start the episode.
Hello everybody and welcome to another Marvel March episode with the Anyway Movies podcast.
Part 3.
Part 3.
We're on a roll.
We are on a roll. It's Phase 3 Part 1 because there are so many movies in Phase 3 that we just can't talk about all of them in one episode or else it'll be really long. So this is the first part of that where we'll be talking about the first 5 movies of Phase 3. Oliver, would you like to list them, please?
I mean, yes, because it's what I'm good at.
It's the whole reason you're here.
Yeah, just to list movies, nothing else. Okay, we've got Captain America Civil War, Doctor Strange, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Spider-Man Homecoming, and Thor Ragnarok. Those are the first 5 movies of Phase 3.
And they're going to be the ones that we are talking about today.
So, Lucy, as always, is there a favourite out of the 5?
Okay. Out of these 5 movies that I have watched, I preferred Doctor Strange. That one was my favourite one.
Interesting.
Is it?
I mean, yeah, why not?
Yeah, I just thought it was really innovative. It was very different to do the movies in this series. And I loved I loved some of the effects. I do have to admit, some of the effects looked a bit trash. But I still enjoyed it. It was fun. It was a really fun film. And yeah, just completely different. And it stood out to me anyway.
Well, some of the effects were based off of Inception. I wondered if you picked up on that.
Oh yes, I definitely got the Inception references, and I wasn't mad about it. I mean, Inception is an incredible film, so if any film wants to rip it off, then I really don't blame them.
I don't think it was a rip-off. I think it was an homage.
Oh yes, a homage. That's a nicer way of putting it. But yeah, I definitely got that.
I like Benedict Cumberbatch as an actor in general. So when I first heard that he was going to be playing the main character in an MCU film, I was very intrigued because, well, I predominantly only know him from Sherlock. Also, he did a 2-man version of Frankenstein.
Oh, yeah.
Where him and the other actor whose name escapes me at the moment, they both learnt both parts, and alternating shows they switched characters between Dr. Frankenstein and the monster.
Yes, I think the National Theatre released both versions online during the lockdown.
So I was very excited, and as always, Mr. Benedict Cumberbatch did not disappoint.
Yeah, I mean, even though Doctor Strange is my favourite film, I do have something that I'm going to leave until later on in the episode to talk about, because there is still a thing about it that I wasn't a fan of. But overall, Doctor Strange really stood out and I really enjoyed it thoroughly and would watch it again.
I feel like you are slowly more and more becoming an MCU fan.
Yeah, okay, so this phase as a whole didn't wow me as much as phase 2. I'm still very much on the phase 2 train, but yeah, I'm liking them. I'm glad that I've watched these, I have to say. I'm quite glad that I've watched them. It's definitely given me a new perception of superhero films, because when I first went into this, I just thought, oh god, I'm just going to be watching 22 silly hero films that are made for kids. But actually, it's really changed my perception of it. Like, I can understand why people like them. So I don't have that cynical outlook on it anymore. And I really advise anyone else who has those same thoughts that I did to maybe watch a few, because you might get proven wrong in that case, because I definitely have.
Are there any out of the movies we've talked about so far, are there any like ones you would maybe recommend to someone who maybe isn't a fan of these kinds of movies to see if they would want to get into them?
I mean, I would definitely recommend the first Captain America, because I think because it's the first one in chronological order, I think it has that nice vibe of a beginner sort of story. And pretty much all of the origin stories, all of the first ones of each hero, I would definitely recommend, especially Thor, because I think Thor gets a lot of crap, and it's really not that bad. I really enjoyed Thor. It was my favourite of phase one, so I would definitely recommend those two for a beginner. Definitely.
It's a nice little segue because the next movie I want to talk about, my personal favorite, is Thor Ragnarok.
Ah, yes. Is that your favourite then? Yeah.
Out of these five of the first part of phase three, and potentially my favorite of phase three overall, yeah, I would say Thor Ragnarok. I said in I think part one that Thor was my favorite Avenger out of the big three.
Yeah.
Uh, and through these rewatches, I kind of came to realize that he's kind of like a midpoint between Captain America and Iron Man. He has sort of this, I don't want to say patriotic, but like similar to what Captain America stands for with Earth, Thor has like a similar stance for Asgard, which obviously develops and changes as the movies go on. And he's also, I feel like he has those grounded moments that are very similar to Captain America, but at the same time, he's a very egotistical character and does sort of see himself above other people in a similar way that Tony does. And I feel like it's a good blend between the two. And it doesn't just stop there with the character, it also develops into other things that we can talk about later on because I have a lot to say about things that happened with him in Infinity War and Endgame. I feel like with this movie specifically, Ragnarok, they found a really good footing for the character. It felt like they finally knew what they wanted to do with him. I feel like the Thor movies, though, again, I agree, are good. I personally do like them. I feel like the tone of them didn't necessarily fit with the other MCU films,
Mm.
but Ragnarok very much did. It was a lot more comical, which I think worked very well because it was actually quite a dark story. The humor and the darker parts of it were contrasted very well, in my opinion. And also, Valkyrie, best character.
I loved Valkyrie. The thing that really knocked me off course with Thor Ragnarok at first was the complete personality transplant of Thor. It really threw me for a bit, especially in like the first 15 minutes where it's basically just quip after quip after quip,
Yeah,
joke after joke. And I was like, oh dear, please, God, no. Don't do this to Thor. This was the one I was hanging on to. Why does every single superhero have to be a quip? Every single hero in these films doesn't have to be a comedy star in order for it to be successful.
Yes.
And I was a bit agitated that they threw Thor down that route. But after about half an hour, I kind of liked it. I was quite happy that they made that change, but I still have that problem where every single superhero character is slowly becoming the same character
In
in terms of humor.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
I
What
mean, it's not a bad thing. It is a superhero movie after all. I'm glad that they're finally choosing some forms of humor, because that was largely my complaint with some of the Phase 1 movies, that they were just not funny enough. They took themselves too seriously. So I'm glad that they have gone with a lighter tone. But I think at the end of the day, there has to be a balance. There has to be a balance between the two. And I think the reason why Phase 3 Part 1 didn't quite work for me is because it was just too much. It was too much light-hearted humour. And again, all of the characters are basically becoming Tony Stark. And I'm not sure I like that.
don't say that. Don't don't say that. Do not say such a horrible thing.
Well,
No.
yeah, I mean, that's just my opinion. Obviously, I haven't seen the rest of Phase 3 yet, so that could be subject to change. At the end of it all, I'm glad that they chose that route with Thor Ragnarok, because I thought it fitted it quite well. And, you know, props to them, because with the unsuccessful opinions of Marvel fans on the Thor movies, they were clearly trying to steer it in a different direction in order to please them, and I think it worked.
What's your opinion? Because I'm quite interested in this. What's your opinion on Hela?
Right, okay. Okay, I love Kate Blanchett. Let's just get that out of the way. But I didn't like her in this film. I didn't like Hela at all. I think she was completely ham fisted in. I think that the real villain should have been Jeff Goldblum, because if they were going to go down this lighter tone, I don't understand why they didn't just go with Jeff Goldblum, because he was literally the figment of this lighter tone. I get what they were trying to do. They were trying to make Hela really dark to counteract the lighter tone. But I think in terms of tenseness, there really wasn't any, because I just knew that she was going to die. Like, there was no way in a lighter film like this, it's funny, laughs every minute. There is no way that Thor is going to die in this film. It is very clear that she is going to be defeated and it's going to be a happy ending. So I think in terms of, you know, predictability, it just didn't work in that way. And I have read comments that people have felt the same about Hela. There's not a lot of people who, I mean, there are some fans of her, but on the most part, everyone's just like, what the hell is she doing here?
I like Hela.
Fair enough.
I think the reason why I like her so much is I think, for one, I think she's one of the better standalone one-off villains that we've seen.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
And also, piggybacking off what I said last week about wishing Loki had kind of stayed a villain for like one more movie before having that shift, I,
Yeah.
I feel like Hela was a good replacement for that, a good insert, because she shared some similarities with Loki in certain ways, and so I think that's why for me I like Hela, and for me it worked.
I think Hela would be perfect in a different film. I think that was my problem. I think that the character would have worked really well for me if she was just in a different film. If she was in Thor: The Dark World,
Yeah,
or or something like that, I think she would have worked there. I just don't think this was the right storyline for her. But obviously, no complaints whatsoever about the performance. It was just, I think her placement in it was a bit odd. It didn't like destroy the film. I liked Thor Ragnarok fine. I keep talking about my complaints and stuff. I didn't hate it. But yeah, just certain things kind of took me off guard, let's say.
Okay, I'm scared to ask this because I have a feeling I know what your answer is going to be, but what was your least favorite?
Your thought is absolutely correct, Oliver.
Oh,
Even more so this
oh
time.
no.
It's Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
I knew you were gonna.
I am very sorry. This was trash. And with the first Guardians, I didn't like it, but I admitted that it was better than the first time, and I got a little bit of enjoyment out of it. This one, I'm really sorry. There is not a thing I can say about it that's good. And this is the first time. This is the first time this happened. Okay, I take that back. There is one bit. There is one bit in this film that I can say is good, but this was trash. I'm sorry.
Tell me how you really feel.
Yeah, sorry. I'm not sugarcoating this one. It doesn't deserve it for me. Oh God. What can I not say about this
No, please.
film? This podcast is going to be 3 hours long.
What are the standout things that you really don't like about it? But if you have something you definitely want to say, just go for it.
Okay, one of my favorite things in this phase was the beginning of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 with Mr. Blue Sky playing and Baby Groot dancing whilst everyone else is fighting in the
Yeah.
background. I really enjoyed that. And when that played, I was like, oh, okay, this might actually be not too bad. And yeah, it was a great opening. It filled me with delight. But then Taserface happened. The least funny joke I've ever seen. Honestly, okay, what? I'm literally bouncing on my chair right now. I am so riled. What really got me about this film was the overuse of the same joke. Like, they kept repeating the same joke, and it didn't get any funnier. It just got a little bit annoying. And that's what happened with the Taserface thing. The Taserface thing wasn't even funny the first time, and then they go on to say it about 600 times before he, thank God, finally dies.
Wow.
Oh, no, I can't. And then you have Ego. Oh, I'm really sorry if I'm reading far too into this, but the fact that this bitch gave someone cancer, like a literal thing that has killed loads of people on this earth and is a horrifying thing to ever happen to anyone's lives, the fact that it just sort of said, oh yeah, I gave her cancer, as a sort of fling of the hand as if it's nothing, kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I was like, okay, that's a bit too far.
I definitely understand what you're saying. And I think in the context of the film, it was a good way of definitely showing where ego stands. But I do understand what you're saying. I do.
Honestly, though, this film.
So yeah, you not your favorite.
No, not my favourite at all. I like the vibe. I like the look. Everything looked nice. But I'm sorry, it was worse than the first one. No, I can't talk about it now because it will just get me really, really annoyed.
Oh, are you not really annoyed already?
Yeah.
Do you want to move on?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Okay. So just briefly want to say one of my favorite things about the second Guardians movie is Baby Groot and then the post-credit scene when he's teenage Groot. the writers and the director confirmed that the majority of I Am Groot are just F bombs throughout the whole movie. I don't know if it's through the whole movie or just when he's a teenager, but anyway, yeah, I just think that's really funny. I love Teenage Groot so much, and I'm so glad that he's the Groot that we got in Infinity War because Teenage Groot might be my favorite Groot ever.
I just love Groot.
Groot is, you can't not love Groot. He's just too precious.
I really want a baby Groot. As much as I despise Guardians of the Galaxy 2, I would keep baby Groot. I would be like, come on, come out of this movie, come with me.
Uh,
And yeah, he was absolutely adorable. He was an adorable little thing.
I do like also in the opening when he's dancing around and then Drax looks at him and he stops dancing and he does the same thing at the end of the first Guardians movie.
Oh yeah, I caught on to that.
Uh,
Oh,
okay, so my least favorite movie, honestly, is Civil War. Now,
stop
I
it.
don't dislike the movie. I think it's a good movie. Just out of these five, it's my least favorite.
To be fair, I have swagged off Guardians of the Galaxy, so
Really, I thought you were just,
just giving my natural review.
uh, I'm really glad that we've gotten very comfortable and confident with, being able to properly voice our opinions.
Yeah, at first we're like, I didn't like it, but I also saw this that was quite. No, Guardians of the Galaxy 2 does not deserve that treatment from me.
Uh, I love it. I love it. So yeah, Civil War out of these five movies was my least favorite. Again, I don't think it's a bad movie. I did actually like it, just least favorite. Honestly, the one thing I really didn't like about it is this movie just kind of felt like it dragged a lot for me. It didn't feel like there was too much going on, even though there was a fair bit going on. After the first time I watched it, I liked it. Didn't was no in no rush to rewatch it, and when I did rewatch it, I ended up rewatching it over like the span of a week, just because it just felt like it was dragging. I kind of also feel like the main bad guy, Zemo, he just kind of felt a little tacked on at times. Like I understand why he was there, and for him to be trying to access the other Winter Soldiers, for him to already like, even though there was some tension and like you could definitely tell where it was going between Steve and Tony. Like he was the one that was able to break the last straw. Like when you watch a movie and it feels like a 2.5 hour long movie. It
Yeah,
was like
yeah.
that. I
Mm.
liked that, but it just kind of felt like he was there, then he wasn't there, then he was there, then he wasn't there. And genuinely, every time I've watched this movie, I think I've watched it 3 times now. Every time I always forget he's there until he comes back on screen. And I always forget who he is when he first shows up during the rewatch. But
Yeah.
apparently he's coming back in the Falcon and Winter Soldier TV series, which I quite like because he was quite an interesting and underused villain. So to see more of him being built up, especially because I feel like you've said, like we said, there's been like a lack of strong, stable villain characters. So to
Mm.
see another villain like being developed more is something I'm very excited for. The fight scenes in this movie are brilliant. The fight choreography, like it's something I noticed with Winter Soldier, but it was something that very much stood out to me in Civil War. The airport fight scene and the introduction of Spider-Man into the MCU.
Oh yes.
Even though I'm not the biggest comic book nerd, even though I'm not the biggest superhero comic book nerd, generally. As someone who is very much a big fan of the original Spider-Man movies with Tobey Maguire, and someone who didn't dislike the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movies, I was just genuinely very, very happy and excited. One, that like an actual teenager was playing Spider-Man, but also just to see Spider-Man. So, Lucy, do you have a favorite Stan Lee cameo from these first five?
Yes, I do. And this is the one that made me full on laugh while I was watching it. Like, audibly laugh. Not that, that little snigger that you do. It was a full on
Yeah,
loud Drax laugh, pretty much.
great.
It was in Doctor Strange when Stephen is fighting and then they land on the bus and Stanley is there with a book and he's laughing about how absurd it is that there are wizards in the world. And oh my goodness, it really got me. It was so good. It was so good. And you could just see like Benedict's face just on the glass, just looking at him like, what is he reading? And oh my god, it was so good. I really loved that. Whoever came up with that idea, props.
The Stan Lee cameos are genuinely like one of the best things about these movies.
I mean,
Like,
we say this every episode. I think the whole reason why they made Marvel films is just so that they could make Stan Lee cameos. That's the whole reason why they did this. The funniest thing about these Stan Lee cameos is the fact that it has been confirmed that he is playing the same person in all of the cameos, in
yeah,
which I don't understand how that makes sense, but I'm not
well,
even going to think too much on it.
actually, I might have an answer for you.
Oh, how?
Okay, so every episode we've had the same favorite Stan Lee cameo, but this time we have a different one. My
Oh,
favorite is his appearance in the second Guardians movie when he sat there in his little spacesuit talking to those big white-headed figures.
oh yes.
I did a little research. These are, I believe, called the Watchers, and they literally observe everything that goes on everywhere. It's not, I don't think it's been confirmed that he is specifically a Watcher, but it's been implied that he is something of the sort, which is why he's in every movie, essentially being the same character, just in different roles. And it's him observing things going on in the MCU.
That would make sense. That would make sense.
Again, I don't think it's been officially confirmed that's the reason, but it was implied in that movie. And a lot of people think that is,
What they were getting at.
yeah, basically.
Yeah. Oh, I just love Stan Lee cameos. I love them. They're the highlight of every film. Even if I like the film, I still like the Stan Lee cameo more than the film.
I also want to give a shout out to his one in Civil War, Tony Stark.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes.
And then War Machine's just like, right here.
I mean, as much as I wasn't really a massive fan of Phase 3 Part 1, they did come in clutch with the Stan Lee cameos. I don't think there was one cameo that I didn't like. They were all pretty much consistently good.
They very much upped their game, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
With their Stanley cameos.
Yeah, they really thought them through.
Okay, so with that being said, shall we move on to favorite and least favorite characters?
Yes, we can do.
Do you have a favorite standout character?
Okay, I have two.
Go on.
So I'm really sorry to mention this film again, but it is my favourite one, so I'm going to mention it again. So Wong from Doctor Strange
Yeah,
is amazing. And what I love about this is that the actor who plays him is called Benedict Wong. So not only does he have the same name as Benedict Cumberbatch, but he also has the same name as the character he's playing, which is wild. What are the chances of that? And honestly, I think he is really perfectly cast. He has this nice stoic energy about him, but also great comedic timing. And I just love him. I just love his presence. I liked that he came in to help at the end and he was an absolute badass. I love a stoic librarian who seems really studious and not all about the whole action thing. And then at the end of the film, turns out he's probably one of the badass heroes of them all. I
Yeah,
love that for him. I love that for him.
I do like him in that final fight scene where he's just sort of thrown into it. He has no idea what's going on, and it just takes him a second to catch on what to do, and then he uses the reversing time to actually trap the bad guys. And like
Yes.
he was so quick with that, I was like, yes, Wong.
Yeah, I love Wong. And then my second favourite character is Korg from Thor Ragnarok.
I love Korg.
I mean, I love Taika Waititi. I think he's a brilliant director. Side note, if you haven't seen Jojo Rabbit, please watch it. Moving on. Taika Waititi voices Korg, I believe.
Yes.
And yeah, he speaks in size 10 font.
Tiny font speaker. Hi, my name is Korg. Little rock paper scissors joke there for you.
I love Korg, and he deserves friends. He deserves a luminous wife, and I hope we get to see more of him in future films. I'm hoping he's in Thor: Love and Thunder. If he isn't, then it's an opportunity wasted. Yeah, what is there not to say about Korg? He's just brilliant, and I really loved him in Thor Ragnarok. I really wish that we got more scenes with him. So, what are your favourite characters?
Okay, I have a couple as well. One of them,
Awesome.
one of them is actually Korg. I adore him so much.
He is my Patronus. I've decided.
You just whip out your wand, expect your Patronum, and it's just a giant rock man who's very friendly.
Away with my dapple grey stallion, Pottermore. My Patronus is Korg, I have you know.
I take Korg over mine any day. My stupid salmon.
Salmon!
Just flop in there. What good is that stupid salmon?
I had no idea that your Patronus was a salmon.
Well, according to Pottermore, I do not claim it. I do not claim it.
That is the best thing I've heard all day.
But yeah, back to Korg.
Anyway, movies.
Yay! I think that's like the second time we've been able to do that.
Oh God, what are we like?
Asgard fall, and then all that. It's just, and he's just there, being happy. You know that feeling where that everyone got with Groot when he first came on?
Yeah.
It's exactly the same. Like he's just a precious character. He's very friendly. He's kind of I like how he's basically been thrown into something that he has no idea about, and yet he still has this positivity about him, even though everything's falling around him.
Yeah.
I mean, being captured and forced to fight in an arena, then meeting Thor and then being thrown into his wildlife, and then watching
We have to love him. We have to love
we
him.
have to we have to stand. My other favorite character, again, I already mentioned her, but Valkyrie is such a badass. I absolutely love her. And she has better chemistry with Thor than Jane did.
Yeah.
There I said it. I don't think that's an unpopular opinion, but I am proclaiming that I'm not a shipper generally, but I genuinely do ship Thor and Valkyrie.
You see, that's where we disagree because I was really worried that they were going to go down the romantic route, and I'm so glad they didn't because I think that they were trying to put Valkyrie as Thor's sister because Hela was obviously not a good sister because she was the bad guy. So I quite like that they had Valkyrie there as another sister to support Thor. And I would have been really disappointed if they got together because I think that they have a nice sibling like relationship. And I quite liked how that correlated.
That's a very different opinion.
Yeah.
But I love how she's introduced. I love how like nonchalant she is about things. I also love that the actress Tessa Thompson has said that she would love. I think I can't remember if it's been confirmed or if it's just something she wants, but the character to be bisexual. I just love that idea.
Yeah. I can definitely see that.
I know that around the time Endgame came out, her and Brie Larson did openly say they would be more than happy if their two characters became girlfriends in the MCU, and I was all for that as well.
That would be amazing. I mean, I've not seen Captain Marvel yet, but yeah, I'd like that.
Power couple of the century.
Absolutely.
Like if that was introduced, I will happily take that over her and Thor any day. But I think the reason why I do like them as a ship, I'm using air quotes, is because generally speaking, like I said, I'm not a shipper person, and I also really like it when there are strong friendships between male and female characters presented because that's not done enough. Which is why, which
Mm.
is why I prefer. I'm glad that Black Widow and Hawkeye weren't in a relationship, and I'm also glad that even though there was some chemistry, Black Widow and Captain America was just remained friends as well because I love their friendship and their dynamics with each other. But I just really liked the idea of Thor and Valkyrie as a couple.
That's fair enough.
Okay, least favorite characters.
Well, I can't not say Ego. I can't not say him. It was a complete waste of a Kurt Russell. I mean, I understand that he was a villain. We're not supposed to like villains. I said this in the last one when I said that my worst characters were the villains. I mean, I've said it all already, but the whole cancer subplot really rubbed me the wrong way. And I'm sorry, I just can't put anybody else beneath Ego after that. So I'm going to have to go with Ego. Let's move on. Who's your least favourite?
Again, I'm going to have to say Baron Zemo from Civil War, just because, again, I think he was underused. He kind of felt like he was tacked on. I constantly would forget he was there. Like, nothing against the actor. And again, I'm really excited to see what happens with his character in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier TV series or Disney Plus series.
Yeah.
But in terms of these five movies, as the main villain, I know he wasn't the main focus of the movie, which is why he didn't have a bigger part, but as the main villain of the movie, essentially, I just wish there was more. There is one thing I would like to ask you. You started working at the cinema around the time that Thor Ragnarok came out, and so you were able to experience firsthand how big these movies are in terms of audience. So I just wanted to ask your experience about working at a cinema.
So, Thor Ragnarok, I was actually quite lucky with Thor Ragnarok because I started working at the cinema at the end of November of 2017. Thor Ragnarok had been out for like 3 weeks, so the hype was kind of dying down. Saying that though, there were still quite a few people that went to see it like multiple times, like a second or third watch. And yeah, it was just like any other film, really. It was really Black Panther that, God, I saw a lot. But yeah, Marvel films are big at cinemas, and it's always a big turnaround in terms of, staffing. There's so many staffing. It's kind of like a major event every time a Marvel movie comes out, because it's just a massive draw. Each Marvel film is just so important to all of the fans, and because we're quite a small cinema, we have a lot of customers. So yeah, it's a lot. It is a lot.
The one thing I have noticed about Marvel films is that when I used to go to the cinema when I was a kid, like the cinema always felt busy and packed. But since online streaming has become a thing, whenever I've gone to see movies, it's always fairly empty,
Mm,
usually. When it's always been a Marvel film, it's always been packed, always, every time I've gone to see one. And I guess
yeah,
that just speaks to the impact that those movies have had.
yeah, definitely. Okay, so I mentioned before that even though I love Doctor Strange and it's my favorite movie, there was one thing that I kind of wanted. That there was a point that I kind of wanted to
Yeah.
raise, and that was the inconsistency of character of Stephen Strange.
Okay, go on.
He is a completely different person in every scene. One minute he's really serious and going on about his work. He's very, very smart, clever, all of that good stuff. And then the next, he's making jokes and frolicking about and doing really goofy stuff with his cape. And I was like, choose a personality, Stephen.
That should be on a t-shirt, that. Choose a personality, Stephen.
And, at the end, he finally comes into his own. He realizes all of his powers that mean something and all of that sort of stuff. But all the way through the film, his inconsistency as a character just kind of annoyed me. I think they tried to make him too much like Sherlock in the first couple of scenes. He made quite clever remarks and, quite dry taunts and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, this is basically just Sherlock. Okay, Benedict. But then, a couple of scenes later, he's running around really weird, and then the cape takes him backwards, and then he's weirdly trying to go away from it in slow motion, like a mime. And I don't know. I don't know if that worked for his character. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
That's all I wanted to say about that. Because even though Doctor Strange is my favorite film, the character itself, I just found a little bit inconsistent for my taste. But, that's fine. Because by the end of the film, he comes into his own. So it was just something I wanted to raise because, yeah, it kind of threw me off a little bit. I was just sort of like, I love this story, but why is Stephen here?
Why is Stephen the main character in this story?
This wraps up this episode of Anyway Movies and the third episode of Marvel
Which me,
March. Next week is the last one.
no. But also, yeah, I'm like both happy and
No.
sad. Happy because like we can move on to some not Marvel related episodes, but sad because this themed month has been very fun so far.
Yeah, it has. I've loved doing it, and honestly, while we've been inside and had nothing to do, it's been something to do. And yeah, I was going to watch them all of the Marvel movies at some point anyway, so why
Why
not
not
now?
now?
Yeah, so if you love this episode and this is the first episode you're watching, go back and watch all of our other ones. They're all great, I think, hopefully. And all of the Marvel March ones should be up by now, so you can check them out as well. We do have a Facebook page, so go and like that for updates on future episodes. We're also on all of the podcasting platforms such as, I can't speak. We've got Spotify, Google Podcasts, Breaker, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, and Anchor. And you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel where there are subtitles. So if you don't know what we're saying at any point, you can read it and know what we say. That's what subtitles are, Lucy. Shut up.
Are you okay? Let us know out of these 5 movies, which one's your favorite, which one's your least favorite. Get in on the conversation, and we look forward to seeing you all next week for the final episode of Marvel March.
Phase 3 Part 1 was good. It was okay. I liked it. Guardians of the Galaxy 2 can jump off a cliff.
I think that might have to be our end credit scene for this episode. Just that small section.
Just some more. Oh my god, I can't. It's just the worst thing I've seen. It actually had me in awe. It was so bad, in fact, that after I watched it, I was on a Discord video call with Molly for about 2 hours. Sorry to every single Guardians of the Galaxy fan that I may have insulted in this episode. If you found something in it that you liked, perfect, great, good for you. You clearly have a better sense of perception than I do. But for me, nah.